I know you clicked on today's video because you're probably thinking, what? So I'm just going to give you some background history. Back in the year 2016, when I was a 13-year-old, I just discovered the world of YouTube. I'll admit it, I actually used to watch a show that has been here since 2009. And in this video, I'm going to do something I don't think anyone has ever done before. This took me the longest time to write a script for, and I'm not good at editing videos. Today I'm going to give you an in-depth character analysis of a guy whose show is basically named after him. And the show is not supposed to be about character development at all. It's a comedy on YouTube. But here I am. So without further ado, let us talk about the show that many of you probably know the name of, and you're going to hate me for saying this, The Annoying Orange. So in order to make this video, I basically had to rewatch each season and every single episode. Each season basically shows you a brief timeline of the world of YouTube back in the day versus now, and man, have times really changed, haven't they? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of things, shall we? First of all, I'm going to start off with talking to you about a timeline that was kind of current and back in like the earliest 2020. And I was actually kind of shocked when I watched this modern season of the show because it was a twist of the story of the show itself that I was not really ready for at all. Let me ask you a question. When I say the name Annoying Orange, what do you first think about? Well, back in 2016, there were not a whole lot of episodes and not a whole lot of seasons to unpack. And this was during the time when the show had these weird how-to episodes, and there were new characters every single episode. They made parodies of old stuff like the Power Rangers, and they even parodied a version of Adele's Hello song. So going back to what I saw, there was a twist in the story of the show. It occurs in season 17 in 2020. I was actually surprised when I saw this because it was something that I was not even expecting. There was a mini episodic series. There were 4 episodes titled Horcrux. And in each of these episodes with that title, basically during this time of the show, there was this evil version of Orange. But the real Orange was stuck in behind a portal, behind a door, stuck in a cage, and 2 of his friends, Pear and Grapefruit, found him. They freed him and had to find 4 different items that mattered a lot to him. The first episode had Orange find a large pinwheel. Orange had to destroy it by exploding it with TNT. The second episode is when Orange had a weird instinct to detect car airbags popping out of the ground, where they ended up defeating this massive airbag. I don't remember how they did that. The third episode involved them finding this humongous warehouse. This is where the first twist that came that generally surprised me. They met an intelligent clone of Orange. He basically told them that the reason why the very first apple from the very first episode of the show kept coming back was because there were multiple clones of every single character that has been shown or have come up on the show throughout all of the years. All of the historical changes to the shelf, everything up to this point in the show that was unexplainable. You could have argued that it was just an animator's mistake or a writing mistake, but no, it's not. There were multiple benches of clones just sitting there of every single character, from Orange to the very first apple on the show. And what ended up happening was that the evil clone of Orange was basically taking over the show, trying to anyway. He didn't want to wait to be a replacement for Orange, and so he decided to kill the creator, who in real life is named Daimbo, who in real life is the one that created the show itself, and he lives in California somewhere. And he has a wife and all that stuff, obviously. So he basically killed him, and he wanted to rebel against his creator, because he was a creation, and he wanted to find all the power in all the world and take over. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that every single clone that was ever made to replace every character has a weird spiritual power inside of them? Yeah, when I saw this for the first time, this moment changed everything for me, because I thought the show was just a mindless comedy, if you will, but no. And then the fourth episode is the final one in that series, and the one thing that Orange was more than anything else that he ever claims to love is his is a girl, and her name is Passion, because she's a passion fruit. And she was strapped to a chair right next to a TNT, and basically she was sitting in a chair, and there was a door, like a glass door that you could see through, and then there was a button that you had to press, and it was right in front of Orange, and he had to make a sacrificial choice: either blow up TNT and destroy the evil guy, or save Passion and let him take over. So what ended up happening was Orange saved everybody he loved, all the clones, his friends, his quote-unquote girlfriend, and defeated the guy, the evil one, by annoying him, to the point where all the other Orange clones in the warehouse came to the rescue and got his friends out of there as quickly as possible. And then I believe Orange used TNT to blow him up. In the end, he saves everybody and freed all the clones, and he possessed the powers that the evil Orange gathered throughout the years. And he was a brave leader. He was a very, very intelligent guy, and he made the very quick decision, which resulted in the result that I just described to you. His friends and his quote-unquote girlfriend basically celebrated afterward. That was a wild ride for me. And after all of this, everything that had happened throughout the miniseries, the show kind of went back to normal. Now, the reason why I titled this video a character retrospective is because I wanted to take the time to analyze Orange as a character, and not just as a main character who has a show named after him, who is annoying, loud, and flat out weird. Because I honestly believe that there was more to Orange as a character than what most people may see or what meets the eye. I'm going to be honest with you. I rewatched the whole entire show. I kind of had to. I was surprised with my findings, and there is a lot that I want to talk about here, because a lot of people like to watch something entertaining and only look at what is presented to them on a surface level. Most people think, oh, this character is doing this because of this or that. And then they watch something else and think, yeah, okay, whatever. Next movie. I'm different. I'm not like most people, because when I watch something, I actually look at the story, and I watch and I observe what's going on, and I listen to what characters say, and I watch what they show expression wise. I observe everything when I watch stuff. And yeah, I do watch stuff on a surface level at times, like most people. But I look beyond the surface of a character. It's just what I do. It's what my mind does. It's how it works. And it's kind of a good skill to have now that I think about it. Because a lot of people just look at the surface of a person and they think that they're just behaving or saying a certain way because of whatever's going on around them. But here's the thing. There are two sides to every story, and a lot of people like to look at one side of the story, but not the other. So now that I kind of got that out of the way, I'm going to actually analyze him throughout the whole entire history of the show by different episodes from each season. And there is a lot to go over, so I'm going to try to make this brief and very quickly. And I don't know how how long this video will be. Stay with me, okay? And if you have to, take breaks here and there. Listen to music while you're listening to this. I don't care what you gotta do, okay? And I'm happy to report to you that I have rewatched everything, and I replayed certain episodes more than once. And my findings about this character were quite shocking to me. And a lot of people don't usually do this kind of thing, but here I am doing it. So let's get right into it. Alright, so I just described to you the AO history, okay? So now we're going to take a look at a brief review on basically every season and certain different episodes of each season, okay? Like I said, this is going to be long. So a lot of people, when they hear someone say the phrase, the annoying orange, they like to think about the earliest seasons of YouTube or the weird Cartoon Network show. And a lot of people say things like, oh God, that show sucks, or that character is so annoying, I can't deal with him. I believe that a lot of people are missing some crucial facts and are missing observations of the character. So, first of all, let's take a look at the earliest seasons, which is 1, 2, and 3, dating back from 2009 all the way to 2011. And in this era is known as the olden golden days of YouTube. This is like the OG stuff before there were a bunch of characters added on top of what the plot. Of course, before we do anything, we have to I have to talk about the pilot. You know, the very first episode. Yeah. First of all, we need to take a look at the very last episode.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it. Just
Okay. So going back to the very first episode, when you watch this episode on a surface level, there's an orange, there's an apple. The orange annoys the guy, and then the apple gets cut or carved or whatever. Haha, funny. Episode over. Time to go home. You could say that this episode is basically simple in premise, right? Well, when I rewatched it, I obviously noticed something people haven't. After all of these years, I realized something. Yeah, the show's supposed to be funny. But at the part of the episode where the guy told Orange to shut up for longer than 3 seconds so he could think, his expression really concerned me. His expression, genuinely concerned me because when he was told to, shut up, Orange narrowed his eyes in, guilt. His smile just completely disappeared, and it was as if he had been through this before. Something was not right, obviously, here at that moment, because he talks too much, but I saw his face shift, like he was reliving a traumatic event. Something was obviously not here.
try it. No, stop it. Okay, you've made your point. Stop it. Would you please be quiet? For
Right there.
crying out loud, would you stop yammering for longer than 3 seconds? I can't even hear myself think.
See his expression? That's what I was talking to you about. Episode 2 is when he was introduced to a pumpkin for the very first time. For some reason, he thought he was something else. And then he eventually was told to shut up again. And in this episode, I saw what looked like him struggling to understand what the other guy was telling him. Like, it was as if he could not completely focus on what was being said to him. And at the part where the pumpkin, gets sliced up and carved, it looked very traumatizing, Like, very traumatizing to the point where it might have scarred the poor guy for life. I mean, hold on a second. Do you know what it must have been like witnessing something so traumatic like that for the very first time? Like, seriously, a pumpkin's just right in front of you, right? He gets carved into, and gets his guts ripped out. Do you know how traumatizing that would be for anybody to experience? Like, genuinely?
Knife. Huh?
Look at his face
Get
here.
that guy's knife away.
See?
Break my head. Oh no, he's tearing your insides out.
It's not funny. Yeah, that kind of thing is just generally not funny. Episode 3, Tomato. Orange was bored, which is understandable. I mean, if you were basically sitting on a counter and wasn't able to move anywhere, go anywhere, and was basically stuck doing nothing all day, I would get bored too. But at the moment, when he met the tomato, he immediately interrupted the guy in the middle of a sentence, and obviously he spoke. And at that point, the moment where, at that moment, Orange experienced like intrusive thoughts and had that weird impulsive urge to interrupt somebody mid-sentence when he's being spoke to. That is a common symptom of a condition that I have that I haven't had professionally diagnosed by anybody, and basically diagnosed myself with ADHD. Okay, now in 2010 is when season 2 came on the air, and we're going to go to the episode called More Annoying Orange. And this is the point where there were a lot. There was just a lot, okay? So there was this new side to him where he was stuck on a counter like he always is, alone and bored. And he started talking to himself. This was only season 2, mind you, the very first episode, and I was already concerned about his mental health. Talking to yourself can be another symptom of ADHD, and a lot of people who are alone do that. And according to psychology, talking to yourself when you're alone or have nobody else to talk to is a good thing because our brains are wired for connection. But if you don't have friends and you're alone, basically, talking to yourself can help you think out loud, if you will. And it's a good thing. The reason why I'm telling you that is because the moment that there is another orange from his already boring day, his expression just immediately changes on a dime. Like, 1 minute he's sad and alone and bored. And then there's another orange. And his face just lights up. You can literally see it on his face, Like, literally.
Hey, what's that? Right, whoa. Wow, that was fun. Hey, you're...
See his face? That is the expression of somebody who was very lonely and got what he kind of wanted. As the episode went on, he basically got a taste of his own medicine. But to be honest, I don't really feel bad for Orange here because this guy has witnessed murder across from the kitchen of the counter where he is, has witnessed food being chopped, carved, and the problem is he's going to witness a lot more trauma from this point on. Orange, episode 4, he was taken outside for the first time and basically met an American football. And during that conversation, he just wasn't able to pay attention. Episode 6, Orange first met the love of his life, passion fruit. And when he met her, it was as if it was love at first sight. And he was trying to hide the fact that he was different, obviously. He really did try his best not to be annoying here. And it was very hard for me to watch. And then everything went downhill fast when the grapefruit guy came into the picture, because he is the kind of guy that's invested in women and, showing them how he looks, right? Both of these guys try to impress the girl. One guy with his physical attributes, and then Orange with his natural charisma and charm. But here's the thing, trying to pretend that you're not normal when you're not normal, that's called masking, and that can be a common symptom for both ADHD and autism. And at this point, you're probably seeing where I'm going with this. Episode 9, he met Liam the leprechaun. And when he met the leprechaun, he was introduced to that pinwheel. The pinwheel is basically like the 2016 fidget spinner toy from way back in the day. From like way back in the day, you know what I mean? So he granted Orange his wishes, he got the pinwheel, and when he was basically talking to him and Orange was just blowing on the pinwheel, he could not pay attention. Seriously, he was just glued to the pinwheel as if it was like an iPad for an iPad kid nowadays. And then at the part where Liam told him that he was the most annoying fruit or orange he had ever seen or ever met, this actually hurt him. He had a really bad reaction to that comment, you know what I mean? And so, that can be a symptom of rejection sensitivity, which is very common in both ADHD and autism. And that part was really hard for me to watch personally.
Right, there are rules on it. Okay, you're watching the world. You can have... Keep it! Forget it! I don't even want it anymore! Whoa, take it easy, little giant. I'm not a little giant, I'm a freaking leprechaun! And you're an annoying sack of citrus if I've ever met one in all me days! Fine. I wish you had your pot of gold so you'd stop being so angry.
I forgot about that part, obviously. Okay, episode 13, he was bored to the point where he was introduced to a cabbage. And and Orange was basically just looked at the guy and said, you know what? I don't have any jokes anymore. At this point, it looked like Orange wanted to die. Orange literally quoted, and I'm going to say this word for word, he felt like giving up because he had no one to talk to, because anybody that he ever talks to ends up dying. Do you know how sad that realization is for a happy, upbeat guy who likes to joke around all the time? Do you know how sad it is for them to look at you in the eye and just straight up tell you, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be dead, and I don't have friends. People that I do talk to end up dying or walking away from me. That is a critical sign of depression, or someone is about to have a mental breakdown to the point where it was very concerning. when I heard that, all of a sudden the joke of, hey, this guy is here. Here, let's kill him off. Okay, episode's over. Joke is over. Let's go home. That was not funny to me anymore at this point. And after that sentence, the cabbage boy dude did whatever he could to help Orange at that moment. And he started to feel better about himself, and he cheered up right away and was happy again. And smiling and joking like he usually does throughout the whole show. Of course, the cabbage dude didn't end up making it to the end, but Orange was now able to continue the jokes. And that showed me that him being sad and then immediately perking back right up, that can be another symptom of ADHD. And a lot of people who have that kind of thing um can be sad one moment and then happy the next. And that's basically known as emotional resilience, I believe. And then let's go on to the next episode after that, which is episode 27, where Orange shows random words like shouts out random words like sparkly or whatever. And I kind of related to this one because if I see a pig, I just randomly say pig. Or if I see a firework, I just randomly yell fireworks without even thinking about it. And that's a symptom of ADHD that I could technically relate to. Episode 29, Season 2, Orange basically shows an early sign or a warning sign of a condition which is called echolalia. And that is a condition where you see things or hear them and then you repeat them over and over and over again. And that is a condition that I personally have. And I've had that since I was a young, very young child. And it's kind of devastating. And it's like if I see or hear something, I just have to copy it. You know what I mean? It can be very socially devastating for anybody with it. Episode 31. He met a cucumber. He was cool. He spiraled out of control because he wanted to be cool. And to impress this cucumber guy, Orange saw literal manifestations of a good side and a bad side. Orange couldn't even decide if he wanted to tell him a joke, whether it was a good joke or basically an insult. And the hardest decision, and these were very hard decisions for him to the point where he got a headache. And he was basically overthinking things. And that can be another common symptom of both ADHD and autism. A lot of people who overthink about that kind of stuff experience that on a constant level. Episode 32. This is where Little Apple was first introduced. And he goes by another name, but I don't want to say that because I don't want to get demonetized. And I totally do not want to offend any people who have dwarfism or whatever. So Orange met a crabapple, annoys him. And at the moment where he finished a joke and actually laughed about it, his face like immediately changed, like literally afterward. And it was actually quite concerning when I saw that. It was as if he was putting on a fake smile, if you will. Yeah.
Does that sort of thing happen a lot around here? Nah, I think it's just a spur of the moment thing.
And then episode 34. Orange and his greatest best friend pair get abducted by aliens. And basically Orange was trying to ask the aliens a question, like, why are we here? But he told a joke instead about getting beaver fever. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. And Pear ended up saying word for word, and I'm going to quote it. Hey, sorry about Orange. He gets a little excited sometimes. I think what he's trying to ask is, why are we here? This actually caught me off guard at first because Pear always was the guy that was like, leave me alone. I don't want to be here. Just get away from me. I'm done. But at this point, it seemed like Orange was really getting to know Orange a lot better and so well to the point where he could literally interpret what Orange was literally trying to say but couldn't for some reason. And this whole entire episode showed me that Orange has a lot of social communication problems accompanied with that inability to pay attention and an incredible ability to misconstrue everything that he hears. Episode 53 is very heartbreaking because Orange makes a good friend with the jalapeno dude, but when he gets choked up, basically turns to Orange and says, please honor my contribution. Episode 54 is the last episode of season 2, and he made up a song, but his friends were busy. And so Orange wished he was never born. Never ever wish that kind of thing, okay? And there was a mistletoe, and he granted that wish. And Orange got to see an alternate universe where he never existed. Pear never learned how to socialize. Passion dated Little Apple, and he beats up other people. And Passion never found her special little someone. And Orange ended up feeling horrible, and he learned a valuable lesson to appreciate the friends that he still had that haven't been killed yet. Season 3. Here we go. So season 3, I'm going to start off with episode 2, and he encouraged a raspberry to use a hobby of rapping in order to save himself from getting killed, obviously. It technically kind of worked, but then in the end it didn't. And I'm not going to talk about that. But this showed me that Orange can be a brave and very caring leader when he wants to be. Episode 3 was he was taken to court for his annoying habits and his personality. Like, how dare you? And Passion was the attorney, and Liam was the judge, and Pear was kind of and not really a defendant. Pear was asked if he was annoying. He said yes. There were all kinds of past witnesses that confessed to him being annoying. And then Passion wanted him to speak for himself. He made a bunch of jokes and puns and stuff. And Passion says word for word, don't you see, the Orange is annoying, but only because he can't help it. You can't make that a crime. Episode 6, which is Valentine's Day, Orange struggled with expressing his words and his feelings in a very good way. And that's probably because nobody ever taught him how to express his feelings in a very good way. Episode 7. Mango became Orange's life coach for just that one day. And Orange got emotional, and he revealed that he uses dark humor to hide how he actually feels and to help him heal from the trauma that he has experienced up to that point. Episode 8. Orange drank caffeine, and if you have undiagnosed ADHD, drinking caffeine can be a horrible combination for some people. I should know because that's how I kind of diagnosed myself. Episode 17, Mommy and Me, is when Orange introduces his mother. Right away, you can already tell that his mother had ADHD and autism and passed that her genes onto her son, Orange. He's like a literal direct biological copy of his mother. She's annoying, she's loud. And because he was raised in that kind of environment, he obviously thinks that kind of behavior is normal when it's not normal for the rest of us. And then episode 18, Orange is very impulsive
to the point where he has a hard time waiting for his turn for literally anything. Episode 28 is where Hollywood executives found him in the kitchen and tried to change him into looking and acting like and singing like Justin Bieber. Oh, God. And Pear basically told Orange that he is not perfect, but our flaws are what make us all special. In the last episode of season 3, it was revealed that Orange himself is colorblind. Now we move on to season 4, 5, 6 from 2012 to 14. And this is the era where Orange was on Cartoon Network and the show was called Annoying Orange High Fructose Adventures. So I'm going to try to get on with this, okay? Because this is already taking too long for me. So on YouTube, before the Cartoon Network show happened, episode 6 on YouTube is when Passion played a game show, and it was where she was trying to find a bachelor. And out of all the bachelors that were present, she decided to choose Orange as her date. Episode 17 showed us that Orange has an inability to lie to other people, and that can be a very common symptom of autism. And then, finally, the Cartoon Network show, the very first episode was a Star Trek parody, and it was revealed that Orange is secretly intelligent, and he was not as annoying like he usually is. The second episode of that show, he had a horrible habit of repeating himself and interrupted other people in the middle of a sentence. And then in the Cartoon Network episode Veggie Zombies, Orange revealed to his friends that he has a condition called where he suffers from chuckleitis. I even had to look this up because I didn't even think this was real, and it apparently it can be real, I guess, and it's basically a condition where it's basically a medical issue that makes Orange uh, say and do things that are inappropriate, like laugh and stuff. And Google told me that uncontrollable giggling fits can be a symptom of a medical issue like anxiety or even a brain disorder. And then there was an ABC News story that described a child who was giggling at inappropriate times, and even though when there was nothing to really laugh about. Oh, and Orange's laugh is also a super weapon in disguise. And then on the Cartoon Network show, there's a episode called Girls versus Boys. It's basically a sleepover slumber party thing going on. And this is when Orange said on live national TV that he likes Passion. And then in the episode called Escape from the Planet of the Grapes of Wrath, Orange proved to everybody that he is self-aware enough to know that he can take his jokes way too far. And then in following the bouncing Orange, Pear told him to, travel because he was tired of being annoyed by him all the time. And Orange took that literally and went to a tennis ball court where he could have died. Pear and his friends literally had to go and save him. And then afterwards, Pear told him that he basically does care about him, but he just wanted more peace and quiet. To be honest, I kind of agree. And then in Pop Star, this is the episode on Cartoon Network that I personally saw on TV when it first aired, where Orange was shown to be a very supportive friend. This is the only episode. And then there is one episode that I could kind of find on YouTube online without committing any crimes, and it's called My Name is Orange. So, in the Cartoon Network show, beside Little Apple, there's also another Apple, and he acts as like a oddball, like the guy that's always last and killed first. Yeah, that's the Cartoon Network show, by the way, okay? And this other apple basically wants to be part of the friend group. And Orange find at the very end when um Orange literally had to admit to the apple and confess to him that if he annoyed him, he would end up being dead. And he was trying to avoid making friends with this guy at all costs. And that can be a very common sign of complex PTSD. And again, there are more episodes of the Cartoon Network show, but most of them are lost media. And in order to watch them, you have to commit piracy. And I don't want to commit crimes, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to move on to the YouTube show now after that because I don't know about you, but I really truly do not believe in committing crimes like at all. Okay, and then there is the TMI podcast on YouTube, and there was a character voiced by Markiplier, and I was actually surprised to learn that Orange and this guy were childhood friends, and they were comedy partners. I didn't even know that. And on this episode, Orange admitted that he likes being, famous and he loves having a YouTube channel, but he can't maintain long conversations because people keep dying, and he wants to date passion, but he feels like he can't because he's always distracted by both himself and outside factors. I could clearly tell in this episode that he wanted a meaningful romantic relationship, and then when he did open up about, you know, emotional personal problems, it was as if nobody really cared about any of them. And that was actually heartbreaking. I mean, how would you feel if you decided to finally open up to somebody about your problems, but then the other person was just like, yeah, okay, whatever you say, buddy, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. How would you feel? And it's also revealed that Orange dropped a major bombshell that the reason why he shouts things like knife is because he's trying to warn people about, the dangers before they get killed. But Orange is just a misunderstood guy, and nobody seems to get that. And then in Feel the Burn, Orange is more attracted to passion than anyone else that she ever dates. And she even stood up for Orange because he was being picked upon by other guys. Then in Cruel Middle School, Orange was one of the greatest pranksters in middle school ever. Okay, and I'm kind of jumping the gun here because I literally just described to you all of that era. Now we're on to season 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And this is from 2015 to 2019 before 2020, before COVID. So, and this is also the era where there were these weird how to episodes, like I said in the beginning. So, let's get on with season 7. Again, I'm going to try to keep it all brief. So, Valentine's Candy Crush. Little Apple is in love. Orange has a sister, and Little Apple's in love with her. Orange literally had to scream inside of a fridge because he doesn't like the idea of his sister being dating anybody, and so basically he's very overprotective of his family. Ask Orange 14. Orange basically has a real weird routine for every single day where he wakes up, he exercises his tongue, annoys people, and then lets his impulses take control. And then in Keyword Schedule, on top of that already busy schedule, he had another routine where he used his jokes to warn, food in the kitchen before they got killed, and eventually he ran out of jokes to tell, which was shocking. T-boned is when Orange made a new friend, and when this new friend, died this time, Orange actually cried, like real tears. And I don't think I don't even think Orange could take the trauma anymore at this point. For Neff Fruit Beers, I know how it sounds, but that's just the name of the episode. Orange told somebody that he cannot read super duper long sentences and lost focus because he loses track of the stuff that he was already talking about or reading. Yeah, that's a common sign of ADHD, man. The very first how-to episode is about tying a bow tie, and Orange constantly basically goes off topic in most of that series' episodes, which is just like, wow, oh boy. And then Howard to remember your dreams. Orange literally a quote for word says, and I've already completely forgotten what this episode was supposed to be about. Very concerning. Skydiving, he has a very hard time listening to people and their instructions. I'm not exactly surprised at this point. Ask Orange 20. I honestly believe that he does have autism because he was basically tricked into spelling the word I cup. I know. And that in the exact same episode, sorry, I mean, I cup, like I said, I'm sorry to mention that because Orange didn't understand, um, that spelling that word is like, kind of offensive. And Pear was trying to tell him and trying to get him to realize what he was doing and what he was saying. But Orange was just like, what? I don't get it. And then in the exact same episode, Orange was told by a commenter to start dancing. And when he was dancing, he literally had to be screamed at by Bear in order to come back to reality. And that is a symptom of ADHD known as attention dysregulation, which is where somebody has an inability to shift their attention efficiently. Like small tests, even exciting ones can be very hard to you know go move on to another task. It's very hard to do so. That's what it is. Spam mail. Orange cannot tell the difference between when he's being scammed out of his money and being scammed into winning a prize. Yeah, that sounds like autism, man. Fart Club. Oh God, I hate this episode. Orange literally quote word for word says, "I have the attention span of a gerbil." So what this tells me is that he's basically self-aware that he knows he's different. How to tie your shoes. Orange went overboard, obviously, with this wild imagination to finish off the episode. Very shocking. Robot power. So Orange can't do the simplest of chores even when he knows he should do them. Yeah, that's ADHD in and of itself. Sandwich, sand, and then witch, like a Halloween witch. Orange slowly starts to go insane in this episode with his obsession of exploding things with TNT, and he even says, "Sorry, where were we?" while he was filming with a camera. Like the Blair Witch Project. How to decorate a Christmas tree. There's no surprise here that orange is his literal favorite color. Yeah, and he basically went crazy by saying, "No, I want an orange bow tie. I want orange Christmas lights. I want an orange Christmas tree. I want orange decorated everything." Yeah, he's basically losing his mind. How to hang Christmas lights. Orange gets offended and he gets, sad when Pear screamed in frustration that he was annoying. Very hurtful for him. That's called rejection sensitivity. And then how to make New Year's resolution. Orange admits that he hates reading. Honestly, no surprise there. I love reading, but again, it's hard to do that. Season 9. Now we're on to season 9. I can't believe it. knife needle. Orange does not know how to, it's not very good with money. And then how to play bagpipes. Um, I think Orange loves wearing skirts. And then that weird, that weird Adele parody I was talking about. Yeah, so he was attending a funeral, and he used dark humor to mask his emotional pain in that moment. Because he lost another friend again, and he literally had to physically remind himself that he was at a funeral and that he had to be sad for it. No jokes. Wow. Ask Orange 29, he was tested to follow rules in the kitchen that were made up, and he proved to me here that when he can try to not be annoying, and he even admits that he totally deserved everything he got in this episode. How to solve a Rubik's Cube. He literally says, quote for quote, word for word, "My attention span is shorter than Little Apple." Electrified Orange. I'm just gonna say this in the kindest way I can. Orange is kind of slow here, and he doesn't understand electronics and water mixed together is dangerous, and he likes to make up brand new words that randomly pop up in his head. Yeah, that I read a book. I heard a teacher read me a book once that was about an autistic boy who did that, and I don't know how common that is for everybody, but that does happen to me sometimes. I'm just saying, okay? How to win the claw machine. How, like, seriously, how on earth can somebody be allergic to a claw machine? And then in Poppy Seed, he sprained his tongue to the point where he was forced to not be able to speak. That was absolutely hard for the guy. But he did manage to save the day by spitting out a seed and, getting rid of the poppy seed. So that's a plus, right? Inanimate Orange. This episode um showed me something that a lot of people probably don't even know. So Orange got shipped to a different kitchen in this episode. And in the other kitchen beside him, there were other fruits that were inanimate, like they had no animated eyes or mouth on them. And they all looked a lot like his friends back at home. And he basically was living his worst nightmare because he failed to warn his friends about, the dangers of the kitchen before they get killed, chopped, which ended up happening. And then he literally ended up losing his mind to the point where when he got back home, he was basically muttering to himself, like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh no, the fruits are all dead, my friends are all dead, ah!" Reliving that trauma. To be honest, that was absolutely cruel to do to this guy. He did nothing to deserve any of that. How to wrestle a bear. Yeah, at this point, Orange was literally suffering mentally, and nobody seemed to care. How to go to sleep fast. He admitted in this episode that he has a hard time falling asleep, which can be very common for people who have ADHD. Because scientists have proven that an ADHD brain releases melatonin later at night than anybody who is normal in the brain. And that obviously means that people with ADHD go to sleep later at night versus if they just lay down and just try to fall asleep. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for him. How to carve a pumpkin. This is the one where he showed a sign of complex PTSD because he got very emotional with sadness at first, and then he got really incredibly angry. And that happens to him every time he thinks about death. And in another episode, don't remember the name of it, Orange is shown that he has a hard time staying quiet, which is kind of understandable. And then in an episode called One versus $500 Popsicles, Orange got knocked off the counter, and when he hit the floor, he started speaking gibberish. And this is the episode where Pear finally, stopped, leaned over the counter, and actually asked Orange if he was okay for once. Like, really. And then we also find out in another episode that he's allergic to nuts, which doesn't mean anything. And then in a how-to episode, he can sneeze like Superman in the old DVD Superman movies. And then now we're on to season 10. I'm gonna try to keep brief. High School Guacamole. He had a dream where he learned a lesson that nobody should ever have to be stuck in a game where they get hit on the head all the time. Story time 3. Orange is so creative to the point where he can come up with the story off the top of his head. As seen on TV, Orange is obviously a very great and skilled entrepreneur. Ask Orange 39. Pear finally has a serious conversation with him and told him that he needed to take a seat and talk with the psychiatrist. It didn't really work in this episode because it was played off as a joke. But to me, that's not funny. Hug a cactus. So when Orange gets bored enough, he will literally fall asleep on the counter. Wow. That's actually bad. Go at Alex Erie. Wow, that was hard to pronounce. Orange woke up in the morning and just invented a new word, like on the spot. And then he likes to put that stuff in Urban Dictionary. Again, autism. And some people experience that, and it can be caused by 2 different conditions. You can echolalia, which is like what I said earlier, you repeat words and phrases externally by the mouth, and it can be delayed echolalia or it can be very immediate. But then there is something called looping, which is when words or phrases are just repeated internally in your mind over and over again. And if you actually say what's in your mind through your mouth, that is called palilalia. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but I have all 3 of these: echolalia, looping, and palilalia. I have all 3 of these, okay? It's very hard to live with. Story time 6. Orange admits that he's actually a dumb butt. Or Ask Orange 41. He hates math to the point where his brain literally explodes when he tries to do it. To be honest, I hate math too. I really do. Food book. Yeah, Orange has really weird hobbies that are not normal, such as doing something called nyanyaing. What? Burping on his friend's. Playing football and touching his tongue to his eye. Driving me nuts. He tried to get a driver's license. It didn't end up working very well, and he ended up driving like a maniac. Storytime 9. He thinks that he and his friends were once people. Yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, buddy, but saying that kind of thing, like evolution, saying things like people evolved from fish from the sea, total blasphemy, okay? It's all a lie. How to make spooky slime. He eats his boogers? That's disgusting. Knife of the Living Dead. So, basically, a lot of past victims of Orange from the earlier seasons came back to haunt him. There's nothing really much to go on here, okay? Pairing is caring. Orange thinks out loud. He doesn't know how to shut up, obviously. We all kind of knew that. How to ice skate. Once he learns a new word, he's just gonna repeat it over and over again. That's the echolalia talking, buddy. Yep, season 11. Let's do this. I'm gonna make it brief. Leprechaun flu. So if Orange sees something that is so beyond hilarious, he'll mentally stop and short circuit, and he won't be able to do anything for a while. Burrito King, he has really bad short-term memory. Same here. Ask Orange 51, he projected his sadness from deep in his soul by when he was asked about if frogs seemed happy on the outside, and Orange in a indirect way basically says yes, because that's what he's going through basically, but because he basically admitted that he appears to be happy but he's actually not. That's Orange 56. He likes TNT and trains, and to the point where if he misses getting on a train, he'll literally cry over it. Okay. How to make a paper snowflake and draw Santa. And in those episodes, he's an actual artist in like the arts. It's like incredible. Like, how is this guy a YouTube channel guy, a pop star, and not a freaking artist at this point? And then how to set up a Nintendo Switch. So when Orange gets very happy, he ends up vibrating, like when he's like super duper excited about something. That's weird. And now finally, we're in the 2020 eras of the show. This is the modern day and age. At season 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, which is currently being worked on right now as I am speaking. Okay, there's a lot to go over, so I'm going to try to speed this up, because I still have other things I want to talk about. How to change your life. Orange has high self-esteem, terrified dancing nipples, and wants to stop being annoying? That's surprising. How to ace a test. He displays his autism perfectly because he doesn't understand a pie joke. Like what? How do you not understand that? And he even struggles with study by just sitting down and reading a book because he gets easily distracted, especially when he's trying to take a damn test. Honestly, same. Baby Yoda visits the kitchen. You know what? I'm not going to talk about that. How to avoid clickbait. Obviously, we all knew this one, but Orange has really bad self-control and impulse control. Honestly, that's ADHD. Draw my life. So in this episode, there was a commentator in the comment section that wrote it as something, and I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to credit the guy here. So it says, so he was born in an orchard, got obsessed with a kazoo, got knocked off a tree branch by the other fruits, got ejected into space, landed in the kitchen, reunited with his childhood friend Passion after a year, and became a world-famous YouTube star. Best origin story ever. I want to thank KVJ Productions for that comment. Thank you, dude. Dr. Pill, not Phil, Pill. So in this one, Orange is observant. He has unresolved childhood trauma, hates it when he's betrayed by his closest friends, and again uses humor as a defense mechanism. And when he got yelled at in this episode, his face just changed, like he was sad and guilty. How to practice social distancing. So Orange, obviously being the extrovert that he is, he cannot stand just being alone. Season C2, Dude 10 Challenge. Orange writes passion poems. Like, really? For real? Bill of 4 cheese. He, obviously in this one, he could not sit still in his seat, ate a TV prop, meditated, made mouth noises, played a kazoo until he could correctly guess a word on a show. Skewers. Orange loves pets, and in this case, those pets are skewers, who are killing people. Very concerning. Ask Orange 63. He hates. He hates the color tangerine, and yet he loves all other shades of orange. You gotta be kidding me. Storytime on 101 Dalmatians. Alan Orange knows how to animate stuff? Ask Orange 65. He doesn't act, and he takes non-recreational drugs. Like, and was like he takes that stuff. Oh my god, he's a drug addict. Ask Orange 66. Orange might actually have another condition at hand, and this is a theory here. He might have schizophrenia because we got to see his point of view for the very first time in this one, and what he experiences. He hears misconstrued sentences. It's as if his brain fills in like missing gaps in a sentence, and the world is like a big bright orange. Like, see that light right behind me? It's Imagine that as a bright orange. Yeah, that's basically what his point of view is like. And so, upon googling on why somebody would misconstrue things and experience what he does in his point of view, in Orange's case, it can be because of past trauma or even some past traumatic experiences. So, a person who has been treated horribly in the past might jump to conclusions that they are being mistreated again, or even they're not. And then another thing that can cause that is neurodivergence, like ADHD and or autism, that kind of stuff. With that, and because both of those cause auditory processing issues and misinterpretation, where the brain makes bad assumptions, and because of what Google says, it says that anybody who is stuck in that kind of situation with that kind of person needs to stop over explaining things, set firm boundaries, use written communication, and recognize a pattern and walk away from the individual or avoid eye contact with them. Honestly, Orange, at this point, I believe Orange has ADHD, autism, complex PTSD, and might have schizophrenia. I could be wrong about that. It's just the schizophrenia part's just a theory. Don't quote me on it. Season 13, Storytime Batman. Orange has a wild and weird way of remembering certain aspects of stories. Marsh Pit. Orange carries a bunch of props with him for jokes everywhere he goes. Ask Orange 73. Orange gets upset and he can turn red. Storytime Chocolate Factory. His sister is kind of like him. She gets bored easily and starts stimulating by burping everywhere. That's disgusting. Rapping paper, like rap, the music genre. Yeah, Orange feels in this episode he gave people a bunch of explosives, and TNT, and he felt like people hated him for that. Well, Season 14, School Picture Day, he was able to outsmart a serious photographer who didn't know anything about fun, and then he began to suffer from a heart attack because he was laughing so much because of what he did. Eye for an iPhone. At this point, Orange is starting to become a psychotic murderer. I bought a Tesla. Orange turned a Tesla car into a copy of himself. What? Annoying customer service. I'm just gonna say it here right now. He should not be a service associate for anything. Mugging it up. He is awful at determining whether a joke is actually funny or not. Ask Orange 80. He throws funerals for people who end up dying. Wow, that's actually kind of touching. Boot camp. He signed up for boot camp by mistake, and he actually ended up surviving boot camp because, if you have served in the military, you know how horrible that can be. And he was told that he was very special. Yeah, okay, buddy, whatever. Mystery orange button. Remember that from the old G seasons? Yeah, that sucker? Yeah. He went back in time to kind of relive the older seasons of the show, and he desperately tried to change the timeline, but it didn't really work, obviously. Season 15. Ask Orange 87. His eyes dilated when he realized that a commenter came up with a great, and I mean a great chicken joke, and then he started, making chicken jokes right on the spot in a frenzy. Ask Orange 88. There was a commenter in this one that said something that could have indicated that they were mentally ill or something, and Orange literally looked at the camera like this, and he was like, "But please, seriously, get professional help." What that tells me is that he cares about everybody's well-being. Doesn't matter how different they are from him. Talk Backwards Challenge 3. So Passion and Orange are hanging out here, and he gets pranked by his friends because they recorded themselves reading passages from Orange's diary. I didn't even know he had one. And Orange carries tape recorders with him everywhere he goes. Wait, so does this mean that Orange tapes records him jokes and stuff that he says on a daily basis so he can actually remember what's going on? Like Lola Bunny from the Looney Tunes show? Ask Orange 8090. Orange knows how to make a robot with AI built into it, and yet he can't do simple math. Season 16. Okay, here we go. Guess the FNAF character challenge with him, Marshmallow, and Sis. Wow, that's a very long title. Orange finally understands what Pear feels like when he annoys Pear. Yeah, okay. I guess you could say he got his just desserts, right? Annoying Orange starts on fire while eating spicy wings. What kind of title is that? Orange gets gassy when he becomes embarrassed about stuff. Introducing the Orange Vision Pro. Orange is not a good salesperson, so either Orange does not remember that he was an entrepreneur, or he lost the ability to be a good salesperson, which can be a sign of autism, because a lot of people who have autism can end up losing their abilities to talk, walk, or even respond to their own name. I don't have that kind of autism, but yeah, that's not good. Season 17. This is when the Orcrux mini-series happened, which I talked about from the beginning. So I'm going to talk about some episodes after that. So, um, Upside Down Orange. Orange is a very empathetic person, especially to one of his clones that literally stands on upside down on its head. Thanksgiving. Orange knows how to make a mean bean casserole. He's a very good cook at that. Ask Orange 96. Orange eats the most disgusting combinations of food. Ugh. Okay. And then finally, we have made it to season 18. And as I am recording this, there are at least 3 episodes that are now compilations of older stuff from before. So let's finally finish this review. Please, ask Orange 97. He got rage baited when he was told a joke that did not have a joke in it. AI annoying Orange ruins the kitchen. Pear finally realized that nothing he could ever do could ever replace Orange. Oh boy. Ask Orange 98. Marshmallow got so mad to the point where he was about to kill his friends, but Orange and the other people had to explain a misunderstanding after a comment was read out loud for him to hear it. Is it just me, or is Marshmallow finally getting tired of Orange and his stuff? On to the actual character analysis, baby. So, congratulations. We have made it to the end of all the reviewing of him as a character throughout all the years. What do I think about him as a character from throughout all the years? So, in the beginning, Orange and his channel were just starting out, and he was that kind of character he was a lovable jerk. He was a jerk because he did not realize that his jokes were sometimes not funny. He did not understand tone of voice. He has a horrible short-term memory, bad impulse control, um, where nowadays Orange is the kind of character where he kind of has shown that he knows he is kind of a jerk and knows that the things he does is awful, but because of complex PTSD, ADHD, and autism, I think he personally thinks that he might be a lost cause and that there is nothing anybody can do to really help him with his traumas and his ADHD filled mind. And it doesn't really exactly help the fact that he sees the world in a completely different way, all bright, orangey, and warped. And I don't mean that figuratively, I mean that literally. Alright, now on to another section. So, a lot of people who are mentally wired differently don't even realize that they might come across as rude or even jerkish. Just because somebody is different doesn't mean that they should be yelled at, treated differently or unfairly, bullied, tricked, betrayed, or even abandoned. When it comes to ADHD, people can be the most intelligent person in the whole room, but might choose to hide it or even be silent. There are 7 different types of ADHD, and I'm not going to go over all of them because that would take too long. And scientists have found physical evidence that ADHD separates the brain functioning in like half. So, like, you got the prefrontal cortex, which in ADHD and autism can make your forehead like large, like mine. And then the other half of the brain is the decision making, the emotional regulation, and the hippocampus, where you store memory. And physically, those parts of the brain have difficulty connecting with each other through nerves and dopamine deficiency. Women who have that are overlooked completely because they are always women with ADHD like me are always told that we're lazy and that we're using it as an excuse and we need to try harder. But that's not the case. That's just not how it works. You don't tell somebody to try harder when they're already trying as hard as they mentally can. Women experience feelings of ADHD symptoms internally and making it feel like they're not good enough. And men experience ADHD symptoms extremely externally, showing hyperness, intelligence, and restlessness outwardly. And that is why the misconception of ADHD only being a boys only diagnosis comes into play, but it's really not. And then people who are autistic might know that they are different, but have to put on masks and pretend to be normal so they can avoid being judged or criticized by other people. And women like myself have to go through that masking experience on a daily basis, where men don't really have the intelligent tools to be able to mask or hide their autisms. And then finally, complex PTSD. Some people don't understand this versus regular PTSD. Complex PTSD is caused by prolonged repeated trauma, which occurs over months or years, where escape feels like it's impossible, and they are exposed deeply to trauma, and that can alter a person's emotional regulation and self-worth over time. Where PTSD is caused by experiencing, witnessing, or even learning about a terrifying or life-threatening event in a singular life-changing event, like combat, physical or sexual assault, serious accidents, mental, natural disaster, and then childhood abuse. The symptoms of complex PTSD are similar to PTSD, but the flashbacks and the avoidance and hypervigilance. But complex PTSD has an additional involvement of disturbances in self-regulation. And there are different symptoms a person can have, like you can have emotional regulation issues, which is when you cannot manage your feelings, you have explosive anger, you have depression that lasts way too long, or you experience something called emotional numbness. Negative self-concept is when you feel like you're worthless or you're shameful or you feel guilty of the trauma at hand. Relationship difficulties is when you struggle to trust other people, you feel detached from yourself and everyone else, and have persistent issues sustaining relationships, especially if they're intimate, and then re experiencing that trauma. Having flashbacks or nightmares, like as seen in Inanimate Orange, and then avoidance, steering clear of other people, situations, or activities that trigger distressing memories, which was seen in the Cartoon Network episode My Name is Orange, where Orange deliberately avoided spending time with the apple, which is known as being avoidant. Hyperarousal, which is feeling on edge, easily startled, or having trouble sleeping. And if you remember in the How To episode, Go to Sleep Fast, he admitted that he had a hard time sleeping. And then disassociation is feeling disconnected from your body, your thoughts, and the surroundings. Now that I think about it, I suffer from complex PTSD. And Orange has all of these conditions. Seriously, think about it. This guy has witnessed food getting chopped, sliced, carved, shredded, baked, blended, skewered, and he himself has been trying to cook for years with the only masks that he knew that he made himself. Now let's talk about the masks that people refused to notice. And it was all right in front of us, and yet nobody cared. Orange? Okay, so let's move on to the masks. Orange has multiple masks. And if you want to understand more about that kind of concept, search up a YouTuber named Safety on Rookie and watch his video titled Was Jax Beyond Saving? I will link that in the comment section and in the description if you want to watch that. Everybody uses invisible masks on a daily basis. Maybe they use a mask to blend in with society. Maybe they use that to avoid being abandoned or judged for being difficult for other people. Maybe they mask because they were abused by their parents or other people. Maybe they mask because life taught them that in order to be accepted, you have to give up who you are just so you can fit in. Orange has several masks that he used on a daily basis throughout multiple episodes throughout all these years. And the worst part, everyone saw him as just the annoying funny guy without ever asking the real question of whether that he was really who he really was or if he was actually pretending, and asked if he ever needed genuine help. And the only friend that actually seemed to care about his mental well-being, the only one that told him to try to seek help, was Pear. He was the one who has witnessed Orange mental state go downhill throughout the years most of all. Now let's finally get into the masks that I'm going to dive into. Mask 1. The one with multiple names. The series as a whole is technically a tragic comic or a black comedy. Orange is the character that uses dark humor for awful situations that he is in. It was even specified in the episode Dr. Pill. Orange constantly uses a mask technique known as dark or gallows humor. In theater, there are two physical masks that represent a different face. The Happy face is the comedy mask called Thalia, who represents joy, laughter, and satire, while the sad mask is called Melpomene, and she represents grief, suffering, and solemnity. Combine both of these, and you get gallows humor, and I like to call it Mavrohumor. The reason why some people use that kind of humor to cope is because they're trying to cope with stressful, hopeless, fearful, painful, horrible situations like this, like disasters, illnesses, and even death, in order to make the situation seem lighter, so that way the situation for them is less fearful or awful in nature. So that way they don't have to feel what's happening. And if you can feel like it's a way to take control over what's going on with your feelings and stuff during a horrible situation. Orange uses that coping tactic as a means to not feel like he's scared or sad when he sees people or strangers die right in front of him. We got a glimpse of what would happen if that defense mechanism did not work for him in Inanimate Orange. He could not bear not to make a joke about a situation because deep down he cares about the well being of people. He meets everybody, his closest friends, and he thinks that that would be just way too much. So he feels like he has no other choice but to make light of the situation. Even when he was sick in one episode, he forced his friend pair to take his place because he knew that if nobody took his place, trying to warn people about, possibly getting killed before they do, he would hate himself for that, knowing that he could probably do something, just something, to save them, and would never forgive himself if he did not at least try. The same thing happened in Annoying Marshmallow. Orange left the kitchen, but he had Marshmallow take his place. As a precaution, while he left for a vacation, we never get to see what Orange did that for there. But I'm pretty sure he cried. And because he relived trauma.